Hello and welcome to the Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friend. If you've been looking for a podcast geared towards your growth, self-awareness, navigating your brain's daily mind drama, and deep inner work to become your highest and best self, you are in the perfect place. Let's get started. Hey everybody, happy Monday and welcome back to another episode of Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I hope that you all had a good weekend. Can you believe we are already into almost mid-December and that Christmas is right around the corner? I still have some gifts and things that I need to get for some people, and my husband and I are hosting Christmas Eve for the very first time this year. Normally, my great-grandparents, my Oma and Opa, would always host Christmas. That was tradition. They did it for like 40 years straight. Everybody knew on Christmas Eve, you just go to Oma and Opa's house around 6 o'clock. We have filet mignon and shrimp, fried shrimp for dinner every single year. And we would just laugh and laugh and laugh. When I was a kid, we had the best traditions. We, were able to believe in Santa, and my Oma and Opa did an amazing job pulling off all of the magic of Christmas. And then when we got a little bit older, none of my cousins or like me or my sisters have children. So basically none of my Oma and Opa's grandchildren outside of my mom have kids. So my baby sister, who is 21, is the baby of the family. We have no other babies in our family. So when we got older, we didn't have kids to spoil and, more gifts to give. So now we do like the white elephant funny game where everybody buys a $25 product or something like that and then wrap it, and then we take turns, picking it and cracking up laughing, because usually somebody in my family puts a gag gift in there that nobody wants. And so when we have the opportunity to steal or get rid of it, it's like the game of hot potato, like we're trying to get rid of that gag gift. And yet usually along with the gag gift, after it's over, the person who did it will say, hey, by the way, there's a $20 bill in there, or there's a gift card taped behind it, or it was something silly. But it's a lot of fun. And in the last few, I would say probably last 4 or 5 years, my cousins have been, or my cousin and his wife have been the one to host it in their home. And this year they weren't able to. So now that my Oma and Opa have passed away, both of them are gone. My Opa asked before he passed away to make sure that our tradition kept on. So my husband and I are going to host it this year. However, Christmas Eve is not going to be celebrated on Christmas Eve because we had family members that had to work, and my husband and I are going to be in California. We're going to be celebrating Christmas Eve and part of Christmas in between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. So we're excited about that. It's going to be a different Christmas this year. So, anyways, I hope that you all have some fun plans and good traditions, and that you're looking forward to being with your family and spending time with loved ones or friends or whatever your traditions are. That's really exciting. So I love the holidays. This year I've been in more Christmas spirit than I normally am. Normally it doesn't really feel like Christmas to me for whatever reason. This year it does. I have some Christmas spirit in me, so I'm excited about it. Okay, so today we are going to chat about the vision of 2020. I'm going to prompt you and ask you some questions and make you think about some things, because obviously this time of year is when we are really reflecting on where our life is at, and we're ending a decade. So this year is super special to kind of wrap up and see where you've been, what you've done, who you've become, how you've evolved. Are you happy with the results you've been getting in your life? Do you want more out of life? Are you happy with the person that you're being? Do you want to be better? Hopefully everybody wants to be better, because we can always improve, but really reflecting on this decade and be, even before then? Like, are you happy with where you're at, who you are, who you're becoming, your goals? Do you have a vision for your life? Like, what is going on, and are you knocking it out of the park? So I think this time of year is really when we begin to do that, because with January 1st, obviously most people in the world are creating New Year's resolutions. But here's what happens a lot of times. We create those New Year's resolutions and we start out really well. We maybe do them a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then we fall back into old patterns of behavior and we no longer follow through with what we said we were going to do. And that's very, very common. Most New Year's resolutions that are set for January 1st, people fall off the bandwagon within the first 3 months of that resolution and then say, oh, I'll just do it next year. I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. And the reason that people do that is because, one, you've got like this, I feel like the energy in the world is very, very contagious around January 1st, because everybody is in the energy of making big changes and following through with what they're going to say. And so that energy is super contagious, and we set goals and we want to knock them out of the park. But the thing about it is that means you have to beat your current mindset. So whatever habits and patterns that you've had your entire life, when you set a New Year's resolution, what you're actually committing to is changing your mind, rewiring everything in your brain, because you've been used to doing something a certain way for forever. And now you can mentally set that expectation that you're going to do something different, but you have to have the strength within your mindset to follow through with that. And we do in the beginning when the energy is high and everybody is kind of holding each other accountable and everybody's talking about their New Year's resolutions. But then as each person falls off the bandwagon, then we get in this energy of like, oh yeah, I was doing really good for 2 months and then I ate, 10 donuts sitting in the car, and now I'm not working out, and now I'm not doing this, and now I'm no longer reading my books, every day, or whatever it is, the New Year's resolutions that you've set. And then I think for me, this is what I'm thinking, is that energy becomes contagious, where we're all joking about the fact that we weren't able to uphold our word for our resolutions. And what that breaks down to is that our brain was uncomfortable with that new change, because remember, your brain is always looking for familiarity. It's always looking for what's predictable and what you've always done and what's going to take the least amount of effort. So if you are someone who never works out, and then on January 1st you say, I'm going to eat healthy every single day and I'm going to work out 5 days a week, you are fighting against a brain that has been used to sitting on the couch and watching Netflix and maybe eating snacks all day, and drinking soda and doing all of that. And your mindset has to be stronger, right? You have to have more awareness and grit about the goal that you're aiming for, rather than allowing your brain to fall into that old pattern, because your brain's like, oh, hey, you remember when we used to sit in sweats and eat Cheetos all day and watch Netflix? Like, that was really fun. We were very comfortable. We liked that a lot. And then your brain is like, let's just do that once. It'll be okay. We'll go tomorrow. And if you fall for that little voice in your mind that says it'll be okay, we'll go tomorrow, and then you continue to do that, and you continue to do that, and continue to do that, what has actually happened is your brain resorted back to that place of what it considers safety and a comfort zone. And what you were doing when you had the resolution was making your brain work harder. Like, you were making your brain create a new pattern. You were rewiring the connections in your brain. And that was really, really, really hard. So if you don't stick with your resolution, you'll almost always you'll go back to what you've always done. So how I wanted to bring this together is I wanted you to think about, and I want you to think about, how you want your life to look like in general, 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. If you want something, anything to be different, the work for that begins now, because you have to become a different person to get to that place. You can't be the person that you've always been, because the person that you've always been has gotten you to this destination right here. As you're listening to this podcast right here, right now, you are the person that you are in this moment today because of the decisions that you've made in the past. So if you want something different, it means you have to think differently. It means you have to do differently. It means you have to take actions that you wouldn't normally take. And that will help you get to where you're trying to go. And that is the whole point of this podcast, becoming your highest self, because what I encourage you all to do and my clients to do is not make decisions from who you currently are, but make decisions from the woman or the man that you desire to be. And that is something that can be very difficult to do, trust me. So if you don't follow me on social media, and maybe you didn't hear last week's episode, I launched a brand new program. It's called the Becoming Her Mastermind. And what this mastermind is all about is to be a place where I am teaching literally every single thing I know. Like, I have spent over 20 grand in coaching and personal development, over 5.5 years of my time, tons of books, tons of audiobooks, tons of podcasts, tons of hard conversations. If you would have met me 6 years ago and then today, you would have met two completely different Macy's. And so the Becoming Her Mastermind was really something that I decided to create after hearing one of my coaches say she gives until it triggers her. Like, when she feels triggered about sharing too much information, she knows that she needs to share that information because that's a growing point for her. She just knows that if she goes ahead and pushes through that discomfort, she's growing, because her mind is telling her, don't share that information. You might be giving too much away. Don't share that information. If somebody else learns that, they might, do it better than you do. Or don't share that much information, like you have clients paying for that, so don't give it away for free, or whatever it is. And I so recognize that fear in me at times to withhold information, like not knowing exactly who to share it with. Do I share it with private clients? Do I share it with my group clients? Do I share it with my podcasters? Who do I share it with? Blah, blah, blah. And Becoming Her Mastermind was really a place for me to create to where I can coach on all the things I'm an expert in, but that my clients also had a place to show up and be coached for a lifetime if they wanted that. And to be able to see me in my vulnerability and my growth, because honestly, launching that mastermind has been such a scary thing for me to do, because what I'm committing to is coaching clients who join that program for a lifetime, which means that I'm battling my mind drama about, oh my God, am I going to have enough content? Am I going to run out of things to say? Am I going to run out of things to coach on? How many programs do I need to have in there? I know that I'm going to have at least 4 to 5 that, run all the time or at different times. I'm going to be coaching them with Q&As. I'm going to be doing Facebook Lives in there. Like, they're going to get everything I have to offer and all of me. And while I'm excited about that, it is pushing me out of my comfort zone, because I know that I can't be who I currently am, because who I currently am is terrified to give all of that away, especially at the price that I'm offering it for right now. And I have to keep continuing to ask myself, what would my highest self do? What would Macy, who has it all and can be it all and, is this powerhouse coach, like what would she do? And what is the price that it would be for? And, I have to ask myself all of these questions, and that's the place that I'm acting from. But it's so funny, because I was talking to a friend a few days ago, telling her about this mastermind, when she was like, what are you up to? What are you doing? And I said, it's so funny. Like, I announced on Facebook that I was going to do the Becoming Her Mastermind. And I said, and in my mind, I had already set myself up for failure, thinking nobody is going to join this. Nobody's going to want this offer. Maybe nobody wants to be coached for a lifetime and have access to all of my content for a lifetime. And, I was just being so mean girl to myself, like all in my head, so much fear, so much uncertainty, right, about everything. And in the back of my mind, I kind of, like my brain, I want to be clear, my brain was kind of hoping that nobody would sign up so that I could say, oh, well, at least I tried. And then maybe build the courage to relaunch it in 2021, not 2020, but 2021. Like that's what the brain does. It's like when it feels uncomfortable, it's like, oh gosh, maybe this is not going to work out. Hopefully it doesn't. You don't have to show up that way. So I was telling her, I kind of was hoping nobody would sign up because I knew if they did, that I was going to have to show up as my highest self before I was ready. Like, because I don't feel ready. I don't feel ready 100% to give it all away and to pour every single thing I know into this group all the time. Like that feels scary for me. That's my highest self that wants to do that. My current Macy self is like, holy shit. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, nobody's going to sign up. And I had like totally self-sabotaged. And then within 20 minutes of making the post on Facebook, I see a PayPal payment come through, and a client of mine that is wrapping up an Inner Mastery was like, oh my God, I can't even believe you offered it at that price. I cannot believe I get to work with you for life. I am so excited that you're offering this. This is so exciting. I'm going to be with you for a lifetime. I'm going to absorb even more of your content. Inner Mastery has changed my life, and now I have access to everything. And I had a heart attack. I'm not kidding. I had anxiety for 2 days. And I love this client so much. And I was vulnerable and honest with her. I said, you have scared the shiitake out of me, because in the back of my mind, I had relieved myself from showing up as my highest self because I was afraid. So I had convinced myself nobody was going to join, nobody's going to sign up. It'll be fine. And then you'll just relaunch it in 2021. Maybe everybody will forget about it. And then she signs up within 20 minutes of me offering it. And I'm like, oh my God, now I have to show up in that group. I have no out. I have no way to get out of it. And, she started laughing, and I'm like, it's so like, this is the kind of raw and vulnerable stuff that I want to share in the Becoming Her Mastermind. I want the clients in there to not only get a ton of value, like this podcast times 10,000 in that group, that's my intention, but I also want them to see a side of me that isn't always the expert that is confident. Like I want them to see the real me in me, shaking in my boots and afraid of what's coming next, because so many of my clients too have said, I want to get into business, or I want to start my own business, or maybe they even want to become a coach. They just have different things that they want to do. And up until this point, I've never really taught the business side and what it takes and who I've had to become to do that. And so in Becoming Her, it's really this selfless place of just giving all of myself that I possibly know to give, and not withholding any information, and being honest about the emotional roller coaster that I'm going through building my business to the next level. And, showing up and offering everything that I can offer in the most highest, best self way. So becoming a different version of yourself means stepping into your highest self way before you're ready. So when you're thinking about your vision for 2020, really sit with yourself and ask yourself, am I happy with my relationships? Am I happy with my spirituality? Am I happy with the way that I work through my frustration, my anger, my sadness? Am I buffering my life away? You remember in the buffering episode, we talked about how we self-sabotage and we numb ourselves out using social media, using Netflix binging, like working out excessively for hours and hours at a time, drinking alcohol, taking drugs, like anything that you're doing to distract your mind from feeling. And I will say that that's something that I really, I heavily preach is some of the best and deepest, most powerful work that you can do is face the stuff you shoved down your entire life and look at it and work through that. And that's really, really scary stuff. I can't tell you how many times, like, my clients just cry when it comes time for them to really do the inner soul searching, because I think in society we're so used to that mentality of put on your big girl panties or your big boy panties and handle it. Don't let people see what's going on behind closed doors. And what I really love about, I think, the business that I've created and the coach that I am is that I welcome the most messy, hard inner work that you could ever imagine. If you knew what my clients go through behind closed doors, you would be like, your jaw would hit the floor, the things that they are working through. I could not be more proud of the work that they're doing and who they're becoming, because they're willing to face all of the things they've shoved down for a really long time and awaken in such a beautiful way. So I think, moving forward in 2020, even before you get to 2020, you should be thinking about this now. What do you want for your life, and how are you going to get there, and what work are you going to do to get there? I can tell you that the most important thing that you are going to have to do to get there is be willing to work on your mindset. That is everything. Everything that you do or do not do is based on your mind and the strength of your mindset. And you're going to be battling your brain more than anything else, because those thoughts are creating the feelings in your body. So when you just don't feel like it, you're battling your brain. When you feel like you want to, watch 10 hours of Netflix rather than come face to face with maybe something that's like tearing you up inside, you're battling your mind, because the subconscious work is that you're having lots and lots of thoughts about it, and you might not even consciously know what thoughts you're having way down deep in your body, because we've become really good about masking it. We've become really good about buffering through it. So think about what you're wanting. I'll give you some of the topics we talk about in Inner Mastery, so this can kind of maybe help you to see if there's anything you want to focus on and, build resolutions around in 2020. So some of the things that I teach the women is, how are you showing up in the world? And when I'm asking them, how are you showing up, I'm meaning integrity. Like, if you say you're going to do something, do you honor your word? Do you show up as your highest and best self? Do you show up as the woman or man that you desire to be way before you're ready? Or do you show up as how you've always been? Because there is a difference. Mastering your vision. That's something that we talk about. That is coming to terms with your desires in your life and the plan of execution, which means that this is getting a very clear grasp on where you want your life to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and that you're taking the action as your highest self to get to that place. What about your personality? Like, how do you currently see your personality, and do you have traits that you want to change? That is something that we talk about a lot. Like, what things are you saying to yourself? Are you constantly saying to yourself, I'm stupid, I am so tired, I am so fat, I am so ugly? Like, are you speaking to yourself in that way? Because when you use that kind of language, the more that you rehearse that thought in your mind, the more it becomes ingrained. And when that becomes ingrained, that becomes a part of your personality. So if you are saying I am, and it ends with a very self-degrading comment, you're making that a part of your personality. And when it's a part of your personality, that means it's a belief that's been practiced by you for such a long time that you believe it's true. And it doesn't have to be that way. Mastering your mind. That is something that we discuss, and that is really about knowing how your mind is limiting you and the self-sabotaging that you're doing. Ego work. That's one of my favorite things to do with my clients. That is recognizing when we are totally self-sabotaging ourselves and other people because our ego is getting involved. I love talking about that in Inner Mastery. Your relationships. This means really understanding the difference between your masculine and feminine energy. Are you happy with how you interact with your spouse, with your friends, with your family members? Do you think that that could improve? Do you think that that could be better? That could be a New Year's resolution. I want to have this kind of relationship with so-and-so. I would prefer to see this kind of improvement with another so-and-so, right? Subconscious self-destruction. How are you talking yourself out of what is possible for you? So this means if you desire things in your life, like let's say you just want to take 2 vacations a year, and maybe at the beginning of the year you set that goal. I want to take 2 vacations this year. I want to be able to afford 2 vacations this year with my family. And then all of a sudden you are self-sabotaging in the worst way. I'm never going to be able to afford that. We're never going to be able to do that. I really thought this year was going to be different. Whatever it is, when you find that you are limiting yourself and you have all of the mind drama about why the things you desired are no longer working, like maybe you did want to become fit and healthy in 2020 and then, or even in 2019, right? And then 6 months in, you fell off track because something horrific or very difficult happened in your family, and one thing led to another, and then you got stressed and you spiraled out of control, and you had all the thoughts about how you're a failure and you're not worthy, and you have guilt and shame and all of that. That's subconscious self-destruction. That's something I would say that's probably the number one thing I work with my clients on, is when we're totally taking ourselves out of the game. Self-love. Are you taking care of yourself? Is that something that you need to do for 2020? Do you need more self-care? Do you need to take more hot baths? Do you need to do, more to protect your energy? Do you need quiet time? Do you need to create space for you to give yourself some grace and take care of yourself? Mastering your feelings. How do you do with that? How do you do with your emotions? The quote goes, when emotions are high, intelligence is low. We do not respond as our best self when we are in the midst of an emotion. Like, it's just not good. That's when we yell at someone and say things that we don't mean. Like, our brain cannot process the same way whenever emotions are high. And also, when emotions are high, it typically means that we're having a lot of feelings in our body. And those feelings more than likely don't feel good. So that's when we have a lot of our anxiety and when we start to get depressed. And that is what leads to a lot of buffering. And again, buffering meaning that we are distracting ourselves from all of the things that we need to be working on. And we push it down and we push it down and we push it down and we pretend that it's not there. And then when we're alone with ourselves, we begin to self-sabotage by overeating, over-drinking, over-working out, being on social media for 4 hours, and you don't even know how you clicked one video that led to another video that led to Ellen DeGeneres, that led to the What Would You Do show, that led to somehow you got on the Kardashians, and now you're on your uncle's, sister's, cousin's page. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know because I was a buffer of social media. Listen to that episode on my podcast if you need more info on buffering. But the buffering is what covers up the anxiety. And the covering up the anxiety is what keeps us from really knowing a lot of times what is actually wrong, because the feeling of anxiety is coming from the subconscious mind drama that is buried very, very deep. It's the reason we don't understand why we're feeling that horrible feeling in our body, but that resistance to feeling the anxiety creates a buffering habit, right, or behavior. And then we try to do everything in our power to distract ourselves from feeling that awful feeling of anxiety. I've struggled with anxiety my entire life. But I will tell you that the most powerful thing I ever learned to do was to lean into my anxiety rather than run away from it, because running away from it makes it a lot worse, or covering it up makes it a lot worse. So when I was willing to lean in and just sit with it and ask it why it's there, I learned a whole lot about myself. That's when I had a huge spiritual awakening. That is when I really learned what I wanted in life. And honestly, that's where my program, Inner Mastery, was birthed, because I was in the midst of the worst anxiety of my entire life. And doctors thought I was like, they were like, you need to be like medicated. Like you're just, maybe you need to like calm down and have something that helps. And I was like, you know what would happen if I just leaned into it a little bit? And this is not to say don't take medication or anything. Do what you feel is necessary for you. But for me, I was like, what would happen if I just like leaned into it rather than trying to mask it and asked it why it was there? And I learned so much about myself. All of the answers that I had been wanting the answers to, like all of the questions I had, and I wanted answers, and I felt like I had been abandoned by God, the universe. Like, why aren't you answering me? I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know who I am. I'm miserable. I'm depressed. I'm full of anxiety all the time. I hate everything, right? Like when I was willing to just lean into that, I was shown all of the reasons that my anxiety was there, all of the self-sabotaging thoughts, all of the limiting beliefs, and I began to do work on that, and that's actually what birthed Inner Mastery. So Inner Mastery is a really deep program, and the women love it. We're actually finishing up next week, or this week is our last week in Inner Mastery. The 12 weeks have gone by so incredibly quick. So really, like, and then the last thing is, getting to a place where you know how to make powerful decisions and where you know how to master your belief and making your vision a reality. So these are the things that I want you to think about going into 2020. Are you happy with all of this? Do you feel confident in this? And if you don't, find ways to really continue to grow and evolve and change. And that could be podcast. It doesn't even have to be this one. It could be multiple. There's so many amazing podcasts out there. I'm a podcast binger. I love so many podcasts, audiobooks, books. If you don't like to read and turn the pages and highlight pages, buy the audiobook, listen to it. If you like listening to stuff more than you like to maybe read and sit down that way. I love audiobooks for that reason. I could be doing the dishes or cooking and listening to a book and really filling up my mind. If you feel like you just need a different direction, look into getting a mentor, a coach, a counselor, a therapist, whatever it is for you, someone to help bounce ideas off of, or someone to be there to listen if you have been that person that has suppressed a lot of things your entire life. Take care of yourself more, and really know in your heart of hearts that when you go to change, when you go to make changes, when you go to become your highest self, that you're going to be met with your brain's resistance to keep you safe. That is why it was so hard for me. It took me like 3 weeks, you guys, to post that I was like launching the Becoming Her Mastermind, because I was so afraid, and I kept responding in my current energy rather than my highest self. Like my highest self would be like, go post it, it's fine. And my current self was like, oh God, I can't, nobody's going to sign up for it. It's going to be awful. Oh my God, I can't. And then finally my highest self just did it and was like, just post it. And within 20 minutes, I had my first client. And then all the mind drama. I was like, oh my God, now in 2020, like I've got to show up a different way. I'm going to have to be my highest self. That client is holding me accountable and doesn't even know it. Now she knows it because I told them in Inner Mastery. I was like, I just laid it all out there. And it was funny because they were like, you know what? It's going to be so good to see that side, because a lot of times when you show up to a coach, they are in an expert energy. I mean, that's why you're hiring them. They're the expert. You want what they have. You want the information that they have, because that has changed their life and you're ready to change yours. But what my clients were saying, it's so exciting to know that we're going to get that side of you, and they have Inner Mastery to see that the content and the value that I put out is amazing and has changed their life. But they're going to get more programs, and they're going to get a side of me where they're going to see me stepping into my highest self even before I'm ready. And they were like, that vulnerability in itself is worth the program price as well. That would be enough just to see me step into my highest self as I'm working through everything that they're going through and holding the space for them and coaching them through things that are very difficult. So what I wanted you to get from this episode, and I hope that you got that, was that you can be anything that you want to be. You can become whoever you want. You have so much power and potential inside of you. I always say we have so much untapped potential that is restricted and hidden because of our mind. We create limits for ourselves that are not even true. And yet we believe that there is nothing, else out there for us, or that it can't be better, or that we can't have more. And then we have these limiting beliefs around guilt and shame of maybe wanting more or desiring more. And I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be that way, that all of that is a box you are putting on yourself. You can be anything that you want to be. You can become whoever you want to become. You can do anything that you would like to do. It doesn't matter your age. I have worked with clients in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I'm telling you, you can do anything. And you deserve to have the life that you desire, and whatever your vision is, whether it's very simple or very extravagant or grand, or just more vacations, right? More money and savings, better relationships with other people, less maybe emotional outbursts with the people that have been maybe toxic in your life. Maybe you want to learn how to manage your mind and your feelings and emotion. Whatever it is that you desire, you can have that. But it means being a different person than you are right now listening to this podcast. So the hardest battle that you're going to face is going to be your mind trying to keep you in the same place that you've always been. Because if you make the same decisions you've always made, you're going to look 5 and 10 years from now and not much will have changed. But if you can step into your highest self and get very clear on the life that you want, and the relationships that you want, and the money you want in the bank, and the life experiences you want to create for yourself, for your family, if you can get really clear in that and tap in to say, how would I make this decision if I was my best and highest self? If I knew that it was going to work out, if I knew that investing in myself, right, was going to get me this result, or if I knew that making this decision was going to get us what we wanted, or if I knew that becoming this person would open the door for X, Y, and Z. How would you make that decision and operate from that place rather than your current self, who is going to tell you to crawl under a rock in your sweatpants and eat some Ben and Jerry's? Because that would feel a lot better. And trust me, I get it. So I hope that this episode inspires you to think of what you want your 2020 to look like. And if I can support you in any way in that journey, I would love to have you in the Becoming Her Mastermind or in any of my programs that I offer. Be sure to follow me on social media. My Instagram handle is MacieRenee_. On Facebook, it's Macie Renee, and that's MacieRenee. But if I can support you in any way, I would love to do that. And if you get a lot out of these podcasts, I will continue releasing podcasts. So just know that you're supported, you're loved, you're seen, you're heard. And I believe in you, and I will continue to believe in you until you believe in the vision for your life, until you believe in yourself. I will believe and hold the space for you. Do the healing work, meet yourself, know who you are at your core. You are so full of potential. I hope that you see it in yourself. I love you all, and have a wonderful week.